Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Just kidding. It's just me. Apparently, Blog Talk Radio is down, so I had to imitate the British woman or to do the voice, because, apparently, Blog Talk Radio, I can't call in. I tried calling in via phone or via the app on the website, and as such, I can't connect. Well, there you go. So, but because Blog Talk Radio, I can't use it, I'm just going to use my soundboard instead, so at least I get use of this sound.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So, anywho, shout out to everyone in the chat. Wes, who's not going to be awake much longer. If you do fall asleep, have sweet dreams. Aaron West, one half of the mod squad. Appreciate you. Adam Westish. Hey, what's going on? Jeff, Jackie. Got locked away for a month. Is that a story we want to hear? What's going on? What happened? Sounds interesting. Got 6 viewers, 7 likes. Make sure to smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs. We're trying to chug away and get there. Hasn't happened yet, but hopefully it'll happen at some point soon. If you want to support the show, otherwise you can always like, comment, and share other videos on the channel. Got to be a few out there that you like. Get other people commenting as well. Help those algorithms out. The Alga Beast, as Benny likes to say. I believe it's Benny that says that. You could also support the show by becoming a Liberal Dan Radio patron. Patreon.com/LiberalDan or Patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way will get you there. You could also support the show one time only by going to liberaldan.com and clicking the Buy Me a Cider button, or just going to buymeacoffee.com/LiberalDanRadio, or you can also Venmo me at Liberal Dan on Venmo. Just do friends and family, because you're not buying me anything. Adam Westish had an autistic meltdown and went to jail for being swatted by the police. Oi! Holy crap, that is not cool. Especially for being swatted. And, this is one of the things where, when people talk about defund the police, this is one of the things where the police need to be defunded. It's not a matter of, eliminating the funds from the police altogether. It's because there are certain things that police shouldn't be handling. If somebody needs... This sounds like it wasn't the need for a police officer. Probably needed somebody with, other skills that police are not trained to deal with or handle. So this is what we talk about when we say defund the police. We'll go see my "Are All Cops Bastards" video, because I have that. That's one of my coming to terms with activism video that I have. Is I ask the question, "Are all cops bastards?" and I go into why people say that and everything like that. And spoiler alert, I don't personally use that phrase, because I do believe that there are police officers that are not. I do believe that there are police officers who do try and do the right thing. Hell, the one who just got named police chief in the city of New Orleans was canned from her previous job, I think in Washington State, maybe Seattle, because she refused to take a bribe, refused to do the right thing, refused to do the wrong thing, I should say, by fixing tickets for people. And because she wouldn't help corrupt people, they canned her, and then she was able to she was able to win like a $1.something million lawsuit for her unlawful firing. So there are people who are police officers who are good people, and we just need to, as a society, make sure that more of them are empowered to do the right thing and cross that thin blue line. Anywho, Tim Farrell, they need to start calling it defund the police. Well, the problem is that the word defund doesn't necessarily mean take all the funds away. It just means withdraw funds from. People have, again, this is one of my problems when it comes to, when it comes to an argument when I talk about anti-Semitism, and people's well, Palestinians are Semites and Arabs are Semites. How can an Arab be anti-Semitic? Well, anti-Semitism has a specific meaning, and it's different than the other meanings that you can have for Semite. The word defund has various different meanings, one of which means to withdraw money from. If I went to the ATM machine and if I withdrew money from my account, it doesn't mean I took all the money from my account. It just means that it just means that, I withdrew some, if not all, money from my account. I know you know what it means, but we can't let the other people redefine the words. We have to fight back against the people who want to redefine the words for us and tell them, no, stop taking things out of the context in which we are giving them. So that's my point, is that when we allow the people to take our words out of context, and we change our arguments to fit them, then we allow them to win. We need to fight back against them and force them to say, these are the words that we're using, and as such, these are the words that we're going to use, and you're going to understand the context in which we're using the words. And for you to try and take the words out of the context, as they try and do all the time, it's disingenuous. Put it back on them. So that's what I say. Adam Westish, no welfare check, just assumption of criminality. Yep. That's what they need to do. Defund means don't give $15 million for a Hummer, give $3 million for a new equipment and $12 million for mental health training when new equipment's expert. Right. Well, just take money away from them and fund more mental health experts. Have more therapy, be more preventive. We'll do all sorts of other stuff that we can do to be proactive about things, and let police do policing, and let the therapist do theraping, as we say. Let's see. We can't let people define our words by not changing the words. We are letting them do it. See, I disagree. I think by us changing our words, we are letting them define how we word our arguments. By standing, and also there's also the thing to understand that we live in an environment where we have like Twitter, and oftentimes arguments are shortened down to small slogans so they fit in a tweet, especially back in the day when tweets were limited to 140 characters and before they got expanded. So like when Obama came out with the Affordable Care Act, one of the things that he was talking about with the Affordable Care Act was, if you like your plan, you get to keep your plan. And in reality, the context in which that was given was nothing in this law requires people to change their plan, but it wasn't like a guarantee that your insurance company was going to stay in business ad nauseum, ad infinitum, so that whatever. And like, if you liked your doctor, you get to keep your doctor. It wasn't a guarantee that your doctor was going to not retire until you decided that you no longer wanted to have him as a doctor anymore. Like, people were being disingenuous about the terms that were being used to sell the healthcare plan, and not understanding that they were given within a particular context. So I think instead of changing our words, because in reality, the people who we're fighting against are always going to change our words. They're always going to change the word. They're always going to stand up and say, hey, we're going to manipulate what you say to our purposes anyway. So it's a losing battle to fight them on it. So just call them out on their disingenuousness and get back to the point of arguing and fighting for the things that we're fighting for. And we can agree to disagree on that as well. If you strongly believe that, it's fine. I mean, it's not something that we could. I don't necessarily disagree with pedantry. I also think that there's definitely unneeded pedantry when it comes to many things. There are times when people become a pedant unnecessarily, and it's like when people try and argue racism, and when we're talking about racism, we're talking about the systemic oppression of marginalized and oppressed people, and as such, white people can't be a victim of racism. Unfortunately, then some conservative will come in and be like, well, this dictionary definition is, yeah, but you're being unnecessarily pedantic because the context in which we're giving this definition of racism is the context of systemic racism, which only affects people who are marginalized and oppressed, and as such, people who are not marginalized and oppressed for their race can't be victims of it. And so by doing so, they're being unnecessarily pedantic. But instead of changing our words, so we shouldn't change our words. We should just inform them and stand up to them and their constant attempts to try and derail any conversation as possible. Civil discourse requires a set of standards, language definitions specifically. Unfortunately, English is a stupid language, and you have multiple words that can mean different things, and sometimes you have different words that can mean opposite things, like redact. To redact something can mean both to erase something out and to unerase something out. Like, there are words that mean their own opposites. What's that? What's the word for that? Word that means its opposite. Contronyms. That's it. Contronyms. Words that mean their own opposites. Unfortunately, contronym is not a contronym in and of itself. But so what's some examples of contronyms? Let's examples of contronyms. To bolt is to secure or to flee. So you can bolt something by putting it down, or you can bolt something by let's see, full list of contronyms in English. Apology is a statement of contrition and action, or it's a defense of one. Ought is all, or ought could be nothing. Bill is a payment or an invoice for a payment. Buckle is to connect, or buckle can mean to break or collapse. Cleave can mean to adhere or to separate. A consult, to consult is to offer advice. A consult is to obtain advice. If you continue, you're doing an action, but you can get a continuance and suspend it. Let's see. To dust is a fine particle, or you can dust and remove them. I don't quite agree if that's a contronym in and of itself, because it's not adding dust. You're not just removing them. But fine can mean excellent. Fine can mean acceptable or good enough. Fix can mean repair, or can mean to castrate. Let's see. Hold up can mean to support, or hold up can mean impede. Left can mean remain. Left can also mean departed. Let's see. Rent is to purchase the use of something or to sell the use of something. Sanction can mean to approve or to boycott. Some of the good ones. That's one of the good ones. Weather. You could weather the storm and withstand it, or if something is weathered, it's worn away. Wind up is to end, or wind up can be to start up. So, yeah, so there's a whole bunch. If you have a language that has a whole bunch of contronyms in it, it's kind of hard to be standard. Yeah, raise Raise and raise sounds like contronyms, but it isn't because they're homonyms. They're homonyms, but they're not contronyms. What's up, Bicycle Mike? Never thought, but when I planned the show, I didn't think I was going to be getting into an English discussion this early into it. Let's see. Big hook. The answer is to offer a government medical plan that has no copays and no denials of tests and is affordable versus the mainstream insurance plans. A choice of not getting screwed versus what we have now. Well, again, I talked about that last week. One of the doctors my wife talked to was like, she's being upset about the fact that a lot of people are now being taken off of Medicaid because a lot of people got put on a Medicaid in Louisiana during the pandemic, and now people are starting to be asked to renew even if they technically should have lost eligibility a year or two ago. They still got to benefit from Medicaid, and the doctor was like, this has been the best couple of years because I haven't had to fight to get people the care that they needed, and now that people have to go back on private insurance, they're going to be less likely to get the care that they need because they're going back on private insurance. So absolutely, I'm all for I'm all for a public government plan that has no copays, no denials, no tests. Like we should be able to have the public option, and the problem is we need a Congress that can pass it so that Biden can sign it into law. That's the problem. That's the minimal we need to get there. And in my opinion, the public option would be much similar to, at the end of the day, would be a Medicare for All type plan, because it could be modeled from it. Because I don't think we have the votes for Medicare for All. We have the majority of the people. A majority of people want Medicare for All, that's for sure. And there are a lot of people complaining in 2020. Why isn't Joe Biden supporting Medicare for All? A majority of the people, they're pointing to some poll, is that a majority of people like Medicare for All and want Medicare for All, so why isn't Joe Biden campaigning on Medicare for All? Well, I'll tell you why majority of I went into this on one of my videos too. The reason why Joe Biden didn't change from the public option to Medicare for All is because studies show that even more people supported public option than Medicare for All. So why would Joe Biden go from a plan that he supports that has more support to one that is very well liked but has less support? Doesn't make sense. But again, that's what often happens when you have people who don't pay attention to, actual politics and just have their own personal agendas. And it's part of, what I've been dealing with in some of my response videos on some of the other video sites that are out there, because there are people. I made like a 10-minute video today on somebody was complaining about Joe Biden, and Joe Biden was complaining about, or they were complaining that Joe Biden, didn't do anything about student loans. Joe Biden didn't do anything about abortion rights, and this, that, or the other. And I was like, and Joe Biden funded this and funded the border wall and funded, genocide in Israel. And I'm just like, look, first and foremost, Joe Biden did a whole bunch on student loans, and I have a video on that here. I don't need to go into that. I've gone into that before. I mean, if the fact that you don't know how much Joe Biden did to help people who have student loans means that you're completely ignorant on the subject. And the fact that Joe Biden tried to do something on student loans, and the reason that it didn't get done is because we have an activist conservative Supreme Court. And again, you don't understand that he's not emperor, god, king, or a benevolent dictator. He doesn't have the authority to control spending. So when the border wall was getting built, continued to be built, it was because it was in the budget, and he had no choice but to spend the money because it was in the budget. So he either needed to say no to the budget in its entirety over that one little bit of spending, or he had to basically say, okay, I have to accept this because I want everything else in the budget, because we don't have line item vetoes in the federal budget. But there are people that are just so riled up in, like, this is one of those, I'm going to vote third party people. Well, the third parties are never going to win because they don't have what it takes to win. Now, if you're in a state that doesn't matter, one of the 40 that don't matter, fine, go vote third party. Vote third parties for your heart's content. That's fine. And in some rare circumstances, I would have rathered the leftist went and voted third party. Had the leftist in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in 2016 who flipped from Bernie to Trump went from Bernie to Jill Stein instead, we would have had President Hillary Clinton, and we would not have seen an overturning of Roe v. Wade. That being said, most of the time when you vote third party, you're just helping the worst of the two evils win. And as our good friend Hal Sparks likes to say, always vote for the lesser of evil. Always vote for less evil. Bicycle Mike, Obamacare saved my life several times. Obamacare's been great. Could it be better? Absolutely. But don't let, as Obama says, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. But they will let the perfect be the enemy of the good because if they can't get the perfect, they want to burn everything down. And it's ridiculous. It's absurd. Aaron, trying to figure out how to pay for health insurance because I don't have insurance with my current job. Did you lose insurance with the last job? Like, did you have a qualifying event that made you lose insurance? Because if you had a qualifying event, you should be able to go to healthcare.gov and sign up for a new plan. And if you're not making enough, they should throw you on Medicaid. And regardless, it's getting close enough to the end of the year where you should be able to go to healthcare.gov anyway and sign up anyway, and then be able to get either thrown on Medicaid or get a cheap enough plan based on whatever your income is. So that's right. Low information voters absolutely bring all of us down. Elizabeth, Joe Biden is in Congress, different branch. Well, as I said in my video, we need to start introducing people back to I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. Schoolhouse Rock, people. Let's go. Let's do it. Trucker John, it's open season. It might be open enrollment for the beginning of next year, but if people lost their health insurance, people who lost their health insurance from losing a previous job, if it's a qualifying event, you can get health insurance to start immediately because of the qualifying event. You don't have to wait till the beginning of the year to get it. That's what I'm trying to point out. So, Sebastian Mike, Trump represents authoritarianism and strong-arm tactics. Definitely wondering about your mental state. What? Tim, I don't like Trump. I don't want to denigrate those who do, and to those who like Trump, denigrate means to put down. Golf clap. Very well played. So, very well played. Unfortunately, well, there's unfortunately, it doesn't matter because I can play it for y'all anyway, because I can just play it from my computer. But I did manage to do. I didn't upload it to the Patreon yet because it was too close to the show to get it that done. But I did do. I think I'd seen it somewhere else as well, but it's still well played. So it's always good to play the oldies and goodies. I did do a hypocrite. Good English, Dan. I did do a hypocrite of the week this week, and which will lead us into our first topic of conversation. So, without further ado, let me know if you can hear this okay, because normally the only audio that didn't play well through my sound thing was any audio coming off of Blog Talk Radio, but this is coming directly off my computer. If this doesn't come through okay, let me know, and I'll play it again and unplug the sound thing. So, here we go. This week's Hypocrites of the Week are Texas Republicans. Texas Republicans passed a House bill that would grant deportation powers to local and state law enforcement. Under the Constitution, the federal government has that authority, therefore it is not a power granted to the states by the 10th Amendment. It seems that Texas Republicans do love the Constitution for use as toilet paper. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on Liberal Dan Radio on YouTube and blogtalkradio.com/LiberalDan. The volume was a little low, so I'm going to replay it again because at the beginning the volume was like at 50%. So let's play it again just to make sure everyone heard it right. This week's Hypocrites of the Week are Texas Republicans. Texas Republicans passed a House bill that would grant deportation powers to local and state law enforcement. Under the Constitution, the federal government has that authority, therefore it is not a power granted to the states by the 10th Amendment. It seems that Texas Republicans do love the Constitution for use as toilet paper. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on Liberal Dan Radio on YouTube and blogtalkradio.com/LiberalDan. All right, of course I remembered this time to put up the 10th Amendment image up there so everybody can see what the 10th Amendment says, which again is, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Which is what they always seem to forget. So what am I talking about? If you've not heard about it yet, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the Texas Senate punted. I believe the Texas Senate punted on this, so it might not actually go anywhere. But just because the Texas Senate punted, it doesn't necessarily make the Texas House any less hypocritical for trying to pass this dumb law. Let's see. Where is it? Okay, I think I had opened up the wrong HB4. So this is Texas HB4. Relating to prohibitions on the illegal entry into or illegal presence in the state by a person who is an alien, not like, E.T., although, they would probably also have a problem with E.T. as well, I'm sure. They would not let him phone home or anything. They would be mean. They would go attack poor E.T. So let's move me over here. We can go take a look at this together, I suppose. Although I don't have the 10th Amendment on this screen, so we'll have to make do if we need. We'll have to go back to the other screen and bring it up if we have to. Being enacted, let's see, Title 10 Penal Code, illegal entry into the state. Definitions, port of entry. Enforcement prohibited in certain locations. Notwithstanding other provisions, a peace officer may not arrest, remove, or otherwise detain a person for purposes of enforcing this provision at a public or private primary or secondary school, at a church, synagogue, or other place of worship, or in a hospital. Enforcement prohibited in certain locations. You can enforce it for examining sexual assaults, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Illegal entry from a foreign nation. A person who is an alien commits an offense if the person enters or attempts to enter the state directly from a foreign nation in any location other than a lawful port of entry. Sorry, but as we all well know, as we've discussed on the podcast before, the states do not have the authority to control who enters the country, because that is a power given to the federal government, and as such it is not a power that the states get via the 10th Amendment. Again, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So therefore, powers given to the federal government, to the United States by the Constitution, are not given to the states respectively or to the people. And for some reason, they can't seem to understand that. let's pull up Article 1, Section 8, shall we? While we're also reading this. An offense under this section is a Class B misdemeanor, except that the offense is a state jail felony if it is shown on the trial as the defendant has been previously convicted of an offense under this section. It is an affirmative defense to prosecution under this section that the federal government has granted the defendant lawful presence, asylum. The defendant conduct does not constitute a violation of 8 U.S.C. Section 135. Again, if it's a federal law, what business does the state have doing enforcing it? Dummy. Like, come on. The following federal programs do not provide an affirmative defense for purposes of subsection whatever, deferred act. So DACA, so basically saying that if you're here for DACA, it's not an affirmative defense. Any program not enacted by the United States Congress that is a successor or materially similar to DACA, notwithstanding any other law, a peace officer who is charging a person detained for violation of the section with committing an offense under the section may, in lieu of arresting the person or taking the person before a magistrate, may remove the person by collecting available identifying information of the person, which may include the use of photographic and biometric measures, transporting the person to a port of entry, and ordering the person to return to foreign nation from which the person entered or attempted to enter. So the person that the law enforcement, it's like Judge Dredd. They wanted Judge Dredd. They wanted the law enforcement officers to be the judge, jury, and executioner. They wanted cops to be able to just enforce the law all by themselves. I mean, come on. As I said, Republicans hate the Constitution. Republicans absolutely hate the Constitution. As Article 1, Section 8 says, establish a uniform rule of naturalization. That's part of Article 1, Section 8. The states have no authority to defend the borders of the nation. And the states do interstate commerce as well. Let's see, so you can... a court may not abate the prosecution of an offense under this section under the basis that a federal determination regarding immigration status of the defendant is pending. Illegal re-entry of certain aliens. I don't know why we're beeping. It's being a pain in the neck. Certain person who is an alien commits an offense if the person enters or attempts to enter at any time found in the state after the person has been denied admission, has departed from the United States, blah, blah, blah. The offense under this section is a Class A misdemeanor, except if the offense is a felony of third degree. If the defendant's removal was subsequent to a conviction of misdemeanors involving drugs, crimes against a person, or both. Felony of second degree if the defendant was removed in the commission of a felony. Notwithstanding any other law, a peace officer who is charging a person detained for a violation of this section with committing an offense of this section may, in lieu of arresting the person or taking the person before a magistrate, move the person. Again, that's the same thing as well that we just read. That just repeated the same thing again. Refusal to comply with order to return to foreign nation. A person who is an alien commits an offense if following a violation of section 51.1 or 51.3 if the person refuses to comply with a peace officer's order or return to the foreign nation from which the person attempted to enter. Like, if you don't follow the policeman's orders to go back to where they came from, there's no due process here. How on earth was this at all constitutional? This is the part that just blows my mind, though. This is the part that blows my mind. A peace officer enforcing section 5.01 or 51.3 may not push a child into water, deny a child access to drinking water, or deny a child urgent medical care. So this is the sad thing, that it had to be put into law that these police officers or these peace officers could not deny children water, deny children urgent medical care, or could not push children into water. But because they specifically said children here, does this mean that under this law that these police officers can push adults in the water? They can deny adults access to drinking water, and they can deny adults access to urgent medical care? Like, how else am I supposed to read that? Indemnification of certain claims relating to enforcement of certain criminal offenses involving illegal entry. And this damages includes any and all damages, fines, fees, penalties, court costs, attorney fees, local government indemnification of local government officials, employees, and contractors, unless the court or jury determines the official, employee, or contractor acted in bad faith, with conscious indifference, or with recklessness. A local government shall indemnify an official, employee, or contractor of the local government for damages arising from a cause of action resulting from an action taken by the official, employee, or contractor to enforce Chapter 51 Penal Code during the course and scope of the official, employees, or contractor's office employment or contractual performance for or service on behalf of the local government. Indemnification payments under subsection may not exceed $100,000 to any one person, or $300,000 for any single occurrence, $10,000 for a single occurrence of property damage. Local government shall indemnify an official, employer, or contractor of the local government for reasonable attorney's fees, yada, yada, yada. The statute section may not construe to waive any statutory limits on damages under state law. Same thing about state officials and indemnifications. It is the intent of the legislature that every provision, section, clause, or word is probably severable. This act takes effect September 1st if it receives a vote of 2/3 of all members elected to each house, as provided by Section 39. If this act does not receive the vote necessary for effect on that date, this act takes effect the 91st day after the last day of the legislative session. Except it won't, because the Senate punted. Good that the Senate punted, but holy crap. Like, so basically what we've determined that police officers in Texas need to be told that you shouldn't push children in the water, that you shouldn't be denying children access to drinking water or urgent medical care, but apparently you can push adults in the water, you can deny adults access to drinking water, and you can deny adults access to urgent medical care while you're deporting them, and that if you're in the state of Texas, you're allowed to violate the Constitution because you are not able to, you're now able to, I guess, if you feel like it, to ignore the fact that powers given to the federal government are not given to the states. But then again, we've already seen Greg Abbott, putting barbed wire and inflatable berms in the Rio Grande. I mean, there was some other ruling, barbed wire, Rio Grande. 2 dead in Rio Grande where Texas installed razor wire. Sparked federal lawsuit. Discovery of 2 dead people raises stakes in a controversy over barriers in Texas installed to discourage unlawful crossings. Discovery of 2 dead bodies in the Rio Grande near Eagle Pass where Texas installed buoys to discourage migrants. Continued royal international controversy, even as details of the 2 deaths remain unclear. Initial reports referred to one victim as a child. However, Mexican Foreign Ministry later announced late Thursday one victim had been identified as a 20-year-old man from Honduras after his mother said the tattoos and body matched that of her son. According to Mexico's Foreign Affairs Secretary, the other body was found stuck on the buoys Wednesday. Those buoys installed by Greg Abbott's order have brought condemnation from Joe Biden, which has sued Texas, to force Texas to remove them. No person should be treated like this. I think there was some ruling about snipping the barbed wire as well. Texas, remember, cutting. Let's see if cutting brings up anything else. Yeah, here we go. Federal judge orders U.S. border authorities to cease cutting razor wire installed by Texas. The order by U.S. Judge Aaliyah Moses will remain in effect pending an outcome of a hearing next week in Del Rio. A federal judge on Monday ordered the Biden administration and Border Patrol agents to stop cutting through the razor wire installed by Texas to discourage unlawful immigration. The temporary restraining order, signed by U.S. District Judge Aaliyah Moses of the Western District, Texas, provides one exception that allows federal agents to cut the miles of wire in order to provide or obtain emergency medical aid for migrants. Some migrants, including children, have been wounded by the wire after crossing the Rio Grande near Eagle Pass, Texas, when attempting to enter the state. Moses ruled that the order will be in effect pending the outcome of a hearing on Ken Paxton's request last week that the federal border authorities be barred from interfering with the state's razor wire. The state doesn't have the authority to install razor wire because the state doesn't have the authority to enforce border policy, because that's a power that's given to the federal government, and as such not something that the state has, because, as we all know now, the 10th Amendment says powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited to it by the states are reserved to the states respectively to the people, and as such, if it's given to the federal government, it's not reserved to the states or to the people. Let's see. Judge Aaliyah Moses. Who nominated Judge Aaliyah Moses? Moses, who was nominated by the name Aaliyah M. Ludlam, was nominated on July 11, 2002 by President George W. Bush. Shocked, I say. Well then. So, is anybody surprised at all over these outcomes that a judge named by a Republican would enable and allow the state of Texas to continue to do unconstitutional things in the actions to prevent what they feel is unlawful border crossings, despite the fact that they have no authority to do so? Pathetic. In short, this is just another reason why conservatives hate the Constitution. They just only use it for toilet paper. They will pay it lip service when it's convenient to them, but in reality, they like the straw man version of the Constitution, not the actual version of the Constitution that exists on paper. Because once forced to actually look at the actual version of the Constitution that exists on paper, they don't like it, because they want to be able to do things like push adults in the water and deny them medical treatment and to deport people, even though Texas law enforcement has absolutely no authority to deport anybody, because that is not a Texas power. That is a United States government power. And furthermore, I wish that the Justice Department would go after both Abbott and DeSantis for usurping federal power when they started shipping migrants from Texas and Florida to all over the country, because, again, they had no authority to do so, and in doing so, they probably committed other crimes as well. But I guess we're too busy going after one giant Republican criminal, so we'll have to see if we can get any other Republican criminals at that point. Cruelty is the feature, not the bug. Exactly. Jeff Curry. Alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush. Alligators are ornery because of their enlarged medulla oblongata. Hilarious. But yeah, that's Texas for you. Let's see if we can connect to Blog Talk Radio. Let's see if they've got their stuff up and going. We'll see.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
Look. Are we going to get to start the show now? Press 1.
To start your show now, press 1. To hear
We starting?
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Insurrection, obstruction, indictments, civilly liable for sexual abuse. The one man responsible for all that could be sitting in a prison cell on election day and still be elected commander-in-chief for these United States. That man is beholden to Putin, weakened NATO the last time around, and is currently tying himself to wealthy Saudi oil money. He enriched himself when government stated his properties. He campaigned on wanting to use government to go after his political rivals and wants to expand executive power. If Donald Trump is reelected, our nation is lost. So let's roll up our sleeves, get to work, and tell the MAGA folks no more before it's too late.
To join the conversation, it's area code 914-803-4131. That's 914-803-4131. We've been over here on YouTube for the last 45 minutes while Blog Talk Radio has been getting their stuff together, talking about all sorts of things like how Texas doesn't understand the Constitution and conservatives hate the Constitution and just use the Constitution as toilet paper. So if you ever are waiting for me to be live on Blog Talk Radio and for some reason don't understand why I'm live, just check over here at youtube.com/liberaldanradio and you'll be able to probably see me there because we've likely defaulted to over there as well. But we are now checking in with y'all and we are now live streaming both places. So huzzah! Again, if you want to support the show, please remember to smash that like button on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/liberaldanradio. Also remember to hit like, comment on, and share other videos that I post throughout the week because that's the best way to help the algorithms. And that'll help me get to 1,000 subscribers much more quickly. And you can also support the show by going to patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com and helping me that way as a monthly patron supporter. Or you can go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio and do a one-time help during the show, and it'll show that you've supported the show. And also you could Venmo me, LiberalDan on Venmo, which will just do friends and family again because you're not buying anything from me. And remember, I have made it easier for you to get to the YouTube channel. If you go to liberaldanradio.com, that brings you right to the YouTube channel. So you don't have to type in all youtube.com/liberaldanradio. Just go to liberaldanradio.com and it'll bring you right to the YouTube channel as well. If you want to share it with your friends, just tell them to go to liberaldanradio.com and it'll bring you right to the YouTube channel. So made things more easy for people to share it with others. So I like making things easy for y'all. Again, if you missed the first part of the show because you were listening on Blog Talk Radio, or if you happen to be late on YouTube, you can always go back and watch the replay and hear about all of the horrible things that the state of Texas has tried to implement. Fortunately, the Texas Senate has decided to not take this up. So this session, it will likely not be going into effect. However, I do not trust that that we are safe from it. It could always come back zombified next year. Maybe even worse. Maybe it wasn't good enough for the Texas Senate. Maybe the Texas Senate was like, I reckon this could be much worse. We could do much worse than that. Texas Senate was probably like, what do you mean we can't push children in the water? I mean, that was a feature of the bill. Well, I mean, I like the fact that we could have pushed children in the water. Let's go back to the drawing board. We got to figure out a way to push children in the water, can't we? Anywho, what else are horrible Republicans doing today? Zinke, Montana's first congressional district, Ryan Zinke, has introduced a bill to expel Palestinians from the United States. There was somebody else who proposed a bill that would just expel persons who were here in violation of our border policies, but not Zinke. Zinke, you know, I see Zinke's name. Maybe that's not how you pronounce it, but that's how I want to pronounce it. He walks downstairs alone and in pairs and makes a horrible sound. Anyway, everyone knows it's Zinke. It's Zinke. It's Zinke. What a racist boy. It's Zinke. It's Zinke. He is a horrible goy. Anyway, I'm assuming he's not Jewish. Because, you know, from Montana. I don't know how many Jews are in Montana. Or how many Jews Montana would elect. But, let's see. Today, Montana, this is from his own press release. Today, Western Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke introduced the Safeguarding Americans from Extremism Act, or the SAFE Act, to prevent Palestinian terrorists from abusing the United States legal immigration system by requiring the Department of Homeland Security to implement a pause on all visas, refugee status, and granting of asylum to individuals holding a passport issued by the Palestinian Authority. It also revokes entrance of covered aliens who were granted visas or entered the United States on or after October 1st, 2023. He's Zinky, he's stinky. Nice. I like that. The legislation keeps America safe. I'm sure it does. You know, what does it do about the American homegrown terrorists, like, you know, the Proud Boys? I don't trust the Biden administration any more than I do the Palestinian Authority to screen who is allowed to come to the United States, Zinke said in his own press release on his own website. This is the most anti-Hamas immigration legislation I have seen, and it's well-deserved given the circumstances. The threats to our immigration system and the history of terrorists abusing refugee, asylum, and visas processes all over the world. The requirements in this bill are necessary to keep Americans safe. Okay, the SAFE Act would render Palestinian Authority passport holders inadmissible to the U.S., bar DHS from granting immigrant, non-immigrant visas to covered aliens, revoke visas issued to covered aliens on or after October 1st. So I guess if you were on September 15th, if you got a visa, you're fine, but October 1st, you're not, I guess. I don't know what sense that makes. Barred and October 1st, but, you know, that nothing happened on that day, but October 7th, you know, whatever. Barred DHS secretary from granting covered aliens temporary protected status. Barred DHS secretary from granting future asylum or refugee status to covered aliens. Revoke refugee or asylum status for covered aliens if requested on or after October 1st. Bar DHS from paroling a covered alien. Revoke parole of covered aliens if paroled on or after October 1st. Direct how do you revoke parole if they were paroled? Direct DHS with ICE USCIS to identify and remove covered aliens without lawful status, including newly revoked status. Definition: covered alien refers to an alien who is a holder of passport or other travel document issued by the Palestinian Authority. Immigration/non-immigration visa. Immigrant visas are issued to foreign nationals who intend to live permanently in the United States. Non-immigrant visas are for foreign nationals wishing to enter the United States for a temporary basis, for tourism, medical treatment, business, temporary work, study, or other similar reasons. Temporary protected status is a program that allows migrants whose home countries are considered unsafe right to live and work in the United States for a temporary but extendable period of time. Refugee status: an individual located outside the United States is special humanitarian concern to the United States, demonstrates that they were persecuted for fear of persecution due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion, membership of a particular social group. Parole allows an individual who may be inadmissible or otherwise ineligible for admission to be paroled into the United States for a temporary period. Okay, I guess it's different from jail parole. Current co-sponsors: Andy Harris, Aaron Bean, Ralph Norman, Scott DeJarlius, Clay Higgins, Ronnie Jackson, Bill Posey, Barry Moore, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Andy Biggs. No surprises there. This bill differs from other legislation also extending the removal of cover aliens currently in the United States who entered as of October 1st. So, yeah. So, basically, I mean, it wouldn't expel every single Palestinian, but, you know, why would we trust that he would stop there? I have no reason to believe that he would stop there. Once you start marginalizing a group of people, once you start scapegoating an entire group of people because of whatever reasons, that opens the door for expanding it later. Tale as old as time. You know, as a Jewish person, it happens to us all the time. I don't want it happening to us. I don't want it happening to anyone else. Hamas attacked Israel on 10/7. Hamas did wrong. Hamas does not represent all Palestinians. And here's one thing that I've been thinking about a lot that I want to talk about a little bit, which is simply the fact that, you know, again, the Palestinian people living in Gaza are being collectively blamed for the actions of Hamas, and that's wrong. The Palestinian people should not be collectively blamed for the actions of Hamas. The Jewish people in Israel and Jewish people worldwide are being collectively blamed for the actions of Israel. And that's wrong. Jewish people should not be collectively blamed for the actions of Israel that are wrong. Now, we can have an argument as to what is proportionate, what is disproportionate, what should be allowed and what should not be allowed as to when Israel goes after Hamas and what is good and what is not. I've stated that I disagree with several of the steps that Israel has taken. I believe that some of their bombing has been indiscriminate and has harmed too many Palestinians who are innocent people who have nothing to do with this conflict. I disagree with the shutting off of water, shutting off of food, shutting off electricity, of fuel, etc. So I believe all that falls under collective punishment and should be considered wrong. But here's the deal. Here's the kind of new thing that I've kind of considered over the weekend, and it's this. Again, Jewish people are marginalized. Even Ashkenazi Jews like myself. You know, we get the benefit of white privilege, and, you know, until the point where our Jewishness becomes relevant, and then that goes out the window. And the Palestinian people are marginalized people. The history of this planet it's a history of people in power pitting two groups of marginalized people against each other and causing them to fight and having them fight with each other to hide, obfuscate, whatever wrongdoings that they're doing. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. So Hamas, for all the wrongs that they did, are tools of the bigger picture of, you know, the bad entities, be they their Iranian funders or what have you. You know, Netanyahu and Likud, the people that are currently running Israel, they do their bad actions as well, and Netanyahu and Likud and Hamas have the toxic, parasitic relationship that relies on each other. But again, they are tools of the larger power that benefits when two groups of historically marginalized and oppressed people are pitted against each other to fight against each other. Because as Jews and Palestinians are busy fighting each other, we're too busy fighting each other to look up and see who's pulling the strings. And maybe that sounds a little bit conspiratorial. Maybe that sounds a little bit, tinfoily or whatever. But you know what? I don't care. Because to me, that's the history of this world, is people in power pitting marginalized people against each other, because that's the way that they get away with all their crap. Smoke and mirrors, cause pain to one group of people and then blame it on the other people. Make scapegoats out of one group of marginalized people, so again, you don't have to look at what the horrible things that they're doing. Or maybe make scapegoats out of both groups, so that this group of people is blaming this group and this group of people is blaming this group. Meanwhile, it's people higher up who are the real ones that are the problems. So at the end of the day, maybe it's the Jews and the Palestinians who need to be working together against those people. We need to take a step back and realize what the hell's going on and fight against the people in power who are causing the deaths amongst the Palestinian people, who are causing the deaths amongst the Israeli Jews, who are causing the threats now amongst all these people on campuses, the threats against people who are who practice Islam, threats against people who identify as Jews, be they secular or religious. We need to stand together against the more powerful folks, because this is, again, how they get away with all of their crap. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, Elizabeth. Speaker of the House has some sort of porn tracker gig and no bank account, screams Russian asset to me. Yeah, I haven't quite gotten it to look too much into the speaker and his son monitor each other's porn usage. Like, I haven't quite gotten to look into exactly what all that entails, but that in and of itself, I wish it would have come out beforehand, before the vote, because weird. Like, look, again, I mean, clearly I've looked at some, because clearly I had to go look at some when I was doing that review of the Unravelling Toxic Masculinity video, when I went to go look at the other picture that the whatever podcast guy wouldn't show or couldn't show on his podcast. Yeah, so I don't see anything wrong with looking at it, but I'm not going to judge people for looking at it unless those people are trying to prevent people from viewing consented to material. Like, if you're viewing material that was consented to be made and consented to be shared, I have no problem with that. Unless you're somebody who's trying to prevent other people from doing that, and then you're going ahead and doing that. And if you need your child to help prevent you from looking at it, and your child needs you, like, I would not want to see what my dad looks at on Pornhub or whatever other website he would. Like, I don't want to know. Why would you want to know? That's just terrible. Like, gross. Nobody needs to know that. And maybe I'll talk about that some Wednesday, because, well, we've got to talk about it at some point before it gets too old in the news. But Jojo, just like something MAGA would totally do, just watch a little porn. Now, would they just watch a little porn, or would they just watch little porn like little people? Just like a digital purity ring. I mean, they vote for Donald Trump, who slept with a porn star, or diddled a porn star, or whatever he did with Stormy Daniels. Like, If it came out that Joe Biden had sex with a porn star, like, they would be all over him. But Donald Trump did it, and somehow, like, he's great. Again, they make exceptions for him because they don't care, because they just want to be just like him. They want to be just like Donald Trump. They love Donald Trump.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Then Yahoo thinking, I keep an adversary in power who approves my extremist views, and those of my fanatical religious supporters stay in power and dismantle the judiciary who help me out. That's exactly what I said a few weeks ago. Tim, so Wednesday we're going to talk about what Dan's father watches for porn? No. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking about... we're going to at least try and try and figure out what the hell's going on in the strange, deranged world of the current speaker of the House, and him and his son looking at each other's porn history or porn viewing or whatever the hell's going on with all that. Like, because, again, I don't want to know. If my dad happens to watch adult things, I don't know that he does or not. Maybe he does. No judgment if he does, but I don't want to know what it is. No desire to know what the hell he watches. I'm sure he has no desire to know what I watch. None whatsoever. Maybe some other time. I guarantee you that this is never going to be a topic of conversation on my show. That will never be a topic of conversation on, even if we get to the point where I get to Liberal Dan After Dark. Having a conversation of what my dad watches as porn is not going to ever be a topic of my show. But look, I'm seriously thinking about checking out mine. This essay for me too much. Wait, what? Think of the new subs. As I've said before, sometimes the new subs are not worth certain actions. Sometimes it's just not worth it. Let's scroll back. Jeff Curry, did it make you mad as a kid when your slinky would get tangled up? Absolutely. Texans don't discriminate. We have a psychopath governor in a wheelchair who kills immigrants and water hazards, criminal attorney general Paxton, idiots in the judiciary who claim reality is what I say. Yep. And Texans voted them in. Yep. I just should though, because and here's one thing, like I found there's one guy, I usually like his videos, I forget what his username is, and he has like a Twitter account, and he has a TikTok account, and it's like an older guy with a beard, he has a whole bunch of content, and he made some sort of video about how the Texas Attorney General had a lawsuit that threw out like 2.5 million like absentee ballots or something. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Like it sounds plausible, but it doesn't sound right. Like there seems to be something wrong about how he's reporting this story. And there was something wrong about how he was reporting the story. Because in Houston, where whatever got thrown out, there's only 2.5 million voters altogether, or there only were 2.5 million voters in 2020 altogether. So what he got tossed out was not ballots, but the Houston Register of Voters wanted to mail out, without it being requested, they wanted to mail out absentee ballot request forms, so that they would mail out all of the request forms to everybody, so that everybody who might need them could have them, so they could send it back to make things safer. So basically they were like, hey, if you need one, you can have one. Not saying, but there are laws in Texas that say, hey, you can only use them if you meet certain conditions. But they wanted to make sure that everybody had one just in case they needed one, if they were the people that fell under those conditions. And Paxton sued and won and had that whole thing thrown out. But it still didn't prevent like 1.6 million people from voting. I don't know how many more people would have voted if those absentee ballots would have gotten sent out. Like, and that wasn't even sending out absentee ballots. It was sending out absentee ballot request forms. So anybody who wanted to request an absentee ballot would have had to mail those ballots back in. They would have had to then be approved, and then they would have had to gotten sent out then an absentee ballot, which then would have had to got sent back in. So there was multiple steps required for them to be able to actually have an absentee ballot in their hands to send back in. So, and, you know, it probably was a waste of money for the Houston Registrar of Voters or whatever it's called in Houston to send all that stuff out. But it just drives me nuts to see these people with such big followings who get things so wrong and then they never correct themselves. They never like, oh, you're right, my bad. Like, I think the other day in the podcast, someone corrected me and I was like, yep, you know what? Absolutely. I got that wrong. I'm bad. That was my bad. So just like these people are so careless. That's especially when it comes to, like, I expect conservatives to play fast and loose with the facts. I expect that to come from conservatives. I just do. And part of that is part of my job is to say this is why the conservatives are wrong. But when we get things wrong, and when it's so sloppily done, it just like makes me do one of these, because I'm just like, this was such an easy thing that could have been checked. You could have represented this thing so much better, but yet you didn't. And now you're hurting your own cause. Like way back when, I think it was in 2007, when Bobby Jindal ran for governor again and won. The Louisiana Democratic Party, which was less inept than it is today, but that's not saying much. Louisiana Democratic Party ran an ad about Bobby Jindal and the things he wrote in college about how only the Catholic Church can be trusted to interpret the Bible. Right? So he wrote these things, and had they reported what he wrote correctly, it could have gotten him in big trouble in North Louisiana and he wouldn't have won. However, they didn't report what he said correctly. They completely bungled it. They completely reported it wrong. So therefore, the media outlets were like, he did not say these things. Bobby Jindal absolutely did not say what the Democratic Party said he did, which then allowed Bobby Jindal to come on and say, the Louisiana Democratic Party has been reported to say that I've been wrong and I'm really a born-again Christian. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're a Catholic. You're not a born-again Christian. But at that point, the Democratic Party couldn't do anything because they've already shown themselves to be the boy who cried wolf. They've already lied. They've already lost their credibility on this topic, so therefore they can't correct themselves. They can't come after him on this topic again. It enabled him to secure his victory, and it was done. So, but then again, now we have an even worse party that just gave up and allowed Jeff Landry to win in the first without any fight whatsoever. So I'd almost rather that party than the one we have currently, because that party at least put up some fight. This party didn't even put up any fight.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. But here's another, but, and here's another thing that I don't get. Like, you have a bunch of people who are saying that, well, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden because how he's handling the Middle East issues, how he's handling the Israeli-Hamas issue, how he's handling the Israeli-Palestinian issue. Again, as if, you know, the money that's being sent to Israel is all his fault, or that all, you know, Congress has to actually approve the money. Like, he can't just do things on his own. Yes, he's publicly saying that he supports the right of Israel to go after Hamas, while also publicly saying that they need to go after Hamas in the correct way. And one of the things that I've seen leftist people to the left of me, because I consider myself a progressive, a leftist, but people to the left of me who are whining and complaining that Biden isn't being more vocal in condemnation of Netanyahu and Israel for the actions that they're doing. And I'm like, do you really want Biden to be more like Trump? Again, I understand that we're coming out of 4 years of a president that would air everything out in the open, everything dirty laundry. Like, all things were put out there politically, diplomatically, etc. Y'all really want Biden to do that too? Maybe there are some things diplomatically that should be done diplomatically and not aired out in public. So in public, he could be like, you know, Israel is our ally. We support the right to defend themselves. We encourage them to do things in the right way and follow the rules of war. And then privately, you know what? Come on. Do the right thing. Stop being an idiot. That sort of thing. Because as I said last week, the whole thing with the train thing, like, they don't get that. But, like, this is what I don't understand. Like, there are people now, like, they're like, Joe Biden's already lost Muslim Americans. Has he? If you're a Muslim American, if you're a citizen of this country who happens to be a Muslim, are you really going to allow the person who wanted to put into place a ban on all Muslims entering this country? Is that who you're going to want to let become president? Even if you disagree with how Biden is handling the issues between Israel and Palestine, and Israel and Hamas, and Israel and Gaza, or however you want to label it, even if you disagree with that, are you really going to let Trump win? The guy that wanted to do a total and complete Muslim ban? That doesn't make any sense. The guy who, Rudy Giuliani, wanted to put numbers on and mark Muslims in this country, mark them up like people in concentration camps were tattooed. You really want that to happen? You really want the person in the presidency with a Congress who wants to expel Palestinian people from this country and bar refugees who might need to come to this country from Gaza in case things get really bad? You want him to be a president because you disagree with how Biden is handling this thing politically, despite the fact that Biden has been encouraging Netanyahu to act right, just been doing it in not a, you know, pounding the table, you need, you know, stop being a dick way in public, because Biden is an adult and Biden is a responsible politician who's not just going to throw allies under the bus, unlike Donald Trump, who is a whiny man-child. Like, I really refuse to believe that we have so many of these people who are going to vote against their best interests. Maybe I shouldn't refuse to believe that because we already had it in 2016. But are they going to do it again? I mean, I can't seriously believe that people were going to do that again. Yet you're always going to have the whiny leftists. You're always going to have the extreme whiny left who are just going to whine about anything. But most of those people probably don't even vote anyway, because that both parties are the same and the whole system's rigged, man. They're probably not even going to vote anyway. But the idea that somebody in a marginalized group would vote in a way that would allow, especially if somebody in a group like of Palestinians would vote in a way to give more power to the Republicans that want to expel Palestinians and who want to ban Muslims from entering the country, who want to put numbers on their arms like what happened to Holocaust victims? Do we really want that to happen? Do they really want that to happen? Like, I understand they might be upset right now about how things are going on, and they have every right to be upset about what's going on right now. Every right to be. If I was Palestinian, I would absolutely be upset. Hell, I'm Jewish. I'm upset about what's happening to the Palestinian people. Because it's wrong what's happening to the Palestinian people. And I've said specifically that I disagree with what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people. And with what Hamas is doing to the Palestinian people. But I take a more nuanced approach than a lot of other people. And a lot of people, especially the whiny left, especially some of the younger whiny left, can't seem to handle the nuance. But the idea that you would take an action to allow Trump to become president is just ridiculous. And maybe you need to rethink some of your thoughts. Adam Westish, I think a lot of those differing far left supposedly are just disinfo accounts. It might very well be. It might very well be that there's some disinformation accounts. Trump wants to have massive deportations. Trump also wants to have, set up like punishment lists of people. If he wins, he's going to start using the Justice Department to go after his political enemies, which is just, oy, like, come on. Like, ridiculous. I have a friend, his dad was a senator from LA. We in political science, at one point he said he was learning his dad is full of shit. His dad was a senator from LA, like from Louisiana? How long ago? I just got a random text, so I'm going to ask, does Nigeria even have princes? They have two princes. One has diamond in his pockets. So how about that now? This one says he wants to buy you rockets. And then there's him now. Marry him, marry me. I'm the one I love, baby, can't you see? I ain't got no future or family tree, but I'm the one the prince of the heart to be. Sorry. He actually followed me on Twitter, too, for a little bit. That was really interesting when he followed me. I was like, what? That's crazy. So I just started recording, but then I had to like scratch my nose. So wait, Benny, are you rolling your eyes at Jeff or at my singing? Trump will shut down Liberal Dan Radio. I'll have to do the Liberal Dan Radio Underground. Talk from the left, that's right, but underground, so we're below. Or are we above? You don't know. I really want to know who the senator is now because you said Louisiana. Like, was it a Republican or a Democrat? I mean, I guess for a while the senators were Democrats for a good bit. Trying to think, would it have been John Breaux? That's my guess, is John Breaux. Wink once if you're right, if I'm right, twice if I'm wrong. Anyway. There is another thing that a lot of people don't talk about in this Middle East discussion. And that is, a lot of people are saying that, Palestinians had land taken from them in 48. And that's why they call it like the Nakba, I think it's called, the catastrophe. And they want their land back, right? And so a lot of the discussion is like, well, how do you unring the bell? How do you make that happen? How do you dissolve a state? Like some of it seems a little unrealistic when it comes down to it. Like I think anything beyond a two-state solution at this point seems a little unrealistic. But let's just say we were going to have a policy in the Middle East of granting back land and property and everything that was taken from people in 48. Do you realize how much we would have to do? Because it's not just Israel. Do you realize how many Jews lived across the Middle East? Like, there were Jews in Syria, in Jordan, in Iraq, in Egypt. Jews were thriving in the 40s, like 30s and 40s, all across the Middle East. There were large Jewish communities in every single Arab country across the Middle East, like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Jews in every single one of these countries. And then what happened was they created the state of Israel and the state of Palestine with the UN resolution. And then these Arab countries seized their property, seized their wealth, seized their land, and they all had to flee. And where did they flee to? The closest place that they could go to was Israel. It was almost like a coordinated thing where they were like, okay, we're gonna take all of these Jews' property, we're gonna take all of their wealth, we're gonna take everything they have, and then they had to run to the closest safe place possible, which would be this little tiny country of Israel. So now you had all of these countries with tens or over 100,000 Jews living in them that now have none. There are no Jews living in any of these countries anymore. And if they are, it's very minute, like very small. And then, so they all run to this little country, and then they go attack them. If you were an Arab country trying to get rid of all of the Jews in the entirety of the Middle East, what better way to do it than by taking away everything that they have and forcing them to go run to one centralized location and then all jumping on that centralized location and attacking it? It was almost like as if it was all coordinated as a final way to get rid of all of the Jews in the Middle East. Now, it failed, and the Jews managed to defend themselves successfully in the War of Independence, and they kept their state. But if we're going to be talking about the giving back of land, the giving back of homes, the giving back of property, the giving back of wealth, that can't be done in a vacuum. That has to be done across the board for the entirety of what happened in that time. Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Egypt, all of those other countries have to do that. And also, in 48, when Israel successfully defended itself, Jordan absorbed the West Bank and Egypt absorbed Gaza. Why didn't they have to pay any sort of penalties, or why didn't they give the Palestinians their land that they were supposed to get in 48? Shouldn't they be responsible for some of that stuff too? Like, it's just the story of the world that everything that goes wrong gets blamed on the Jews, and nobody else gets any sort of thought about, oh, let's blame them too. Let's look at them for their responsibility. No, it's just another example of anti-Semitism that's going on here, is that the Jews get blamed for the creation of a ethno-state, but yet you have Islamic states all across the Middle East, and nobody bats an eye. They claim that the Jews, kicked the Palestinians out of their homes. Now, in some cases, Israel has kicked Palestinians out of their homes, like when they bulldoze homes and let settlers take over. That's BS, and that needs to stop, and I disagree with that, them doing that wholeheartedly. And if they ever do a, West Bank and Gaza become a singular Palestinian state, then I'm fully support those settlers being forced to move out, or saying, hey, if you choose to live there, you're living in Palestine. You're not, that's not Israel, that's Palestine. Deal with it. But they would talk about that, but hardly anybody talks about the fact that Jews got their property, land, wealth stolen from them across the Middle East. Because when it happens to the Jews, nobody bats an eyelash. And that's why, even though I'm not going to say that all anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic, there is a lot of anti-Zionism that is anti-Semitic, because it's very hard for people to make the argument and not have it come across as both. There are people that can do it. There are people that do it well. A lot of those people are Jews. The people that are able to make that distinction tend to be Jewish people who are not Zionists. And of course, the definition of what a Zionist is also changes depending on who you talk to. It used to be, like, my opinion of what a Zionist was somebody who believed that the entirety of the land, from Lebanon to the Red Sea, from Jordan and Syria to the Mediterranean and the Suez Canal, whatever, to the Sinai, that all of that should belong to Israel and none of it is Palestinian. To me, that was Zionism. The entire land, to me, a Zionist was the whole land belongs to Israel, none of it is Palestinian, no land for peace. To me, that was Zionism. And to me, if you supported a two-state solution, that was not Zionism. That was somebody who, if you're willing to give up land for peace, you were not a Zionist. Now, they've moved that goalpost. Now, if you support a two-state solution, you're a Zionist, because you now support any land that's called Israel in that territory. If you support anything called Israel in that territory, you're now labeled a Zionist, and it's used in a derogatory way. And I fear that at some point, if some people were to say, okay, let's make one country that's for everybody, but the Jews should have a right to be there too in that one country, that people who say that are then also going to be called Zionists. Because to some people, it's not about whether or not Israel is there. For some people, it's about the fact that Jews are there, which is why, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, is viewed by many people as anti-Semitic and a call for genocide of Jewish people, because that's why Hamas used it. That's why Hamas used that terminology in their founding document. That's why Hamas uses it. That's why they've repeated that phrase. Again, do I believe that some people use that phrase without the intention of genocide for the Jews? Sure. But again, just because people have an intent to use it without ill intent, it doesn't mean that using it is right. Like, sometimes people take a phrase and use it for evil, and it gets permanently stained with that evil. Just like sometimes people take a symbol that wasn't previously used for evil, and then it gets permanently stained with evil, and it can never be used again, like a swastika. You're not going to be able to use a swastika again because of the Nazis. You're not going to see people making an argument that are not Nazis, they're not Jew haters, who are going to say, well, I think I should be able to use a swastika because it's not fair that the Nazis used it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. People understand that if you're using a swastika, you're being a Jew hater. You're being an anti-Semite. But for some reason, we can't make that same argument about from the river to the sea. Why? Is it because the people using it are also oppressed? Maybe. But the people also using it are Hamas. And Hamas was founded with a specific intent for genocide, for completely clearing the area, not just of Israel, but of Jews as a whole. And so if you have an organization created for the elimination of Jews, if you have an organization that's funded by Iran who wants to eliminate the area of all the Jews, then you know what? Insisted, repeated use of that phrase is stubborn at best and anti-Semitic at worst. And if people are not gonna listen to Jewish people about issues about anti-Semitism, and especially if they're on the left, people on the left all day long will tell you to listen to people about issues pertaining to their own oppression and to their own marginalization. When it comes to racism, you listen to black people about what black people deal with. And if a black person is talking to you and telling you about their oppression, about their marginalization, about racism, you listen to them. You don't question them. You don't deny them. You listen. You give it to them. Does that mean that every single time they say is correct? Not 100% of the time. Probably point to one or two examples where, maybe somebody jumped the shark, like the people that I think tried to say that the guy with the Obama rodeo clown mask was being racist when that guy always wore the mask of every president throughout, his tenure as a rodeo clown. Like, that's an example of people trying to claim something was racist when it wasn't. But generally speaking, the exception proves the rule. Generally speaking, you listen to black people when black people are talking about their oppression, their marginalization. You listen to trans people when trans people are telling you about their marginalization, their oppression. You listen to them. You trust them. You listen to obese people when obese people are trying to tell you about what happens to them as life is them. Now, frequently they don't, but again, it's just another example from my life where, you don't listen, you shouldn't be listening to skinny people about what obese people deal with. You listen to obese people about what obese people deal with, because we have the lived life experience. You trust the lived life experience of black people when they tell you what they've dealt with. You trust the lived life experience of LGBTQA folks when they tell you about it. You trust the lived life experience of women when women tell you what they deal with. Like when a woman tries to tell you that something is sexist, you don't just write it off out of hand. I mean, I've done that before in the past. I'm guilty of that in the past, and I've learned to change my behavior because I've learned that you shouldn't do that. You should trust when people tell you about their, because even if it's counterintuitive, if you don't have the lived life experience as a woman, you can't know what a woman deals with. So you need to trust them to understand what they're saying and what they deal with. And the same thing, and this is what a leftist person will tell you for every single marginalized and oppressed group. For some reason, for some unbeknownst reason, for Jews, it doesn't happen. For Jews, we don't get that same benefit of the doubt. For Jews, people make excuses as to why you shouldn't listen to us. And that's why we get terrified. And that's why we get upset. That's what we have to deal with. It's not just the fact that people are anti-Semitic. It's not just the fact that people want to come after us and kill us for who we are. It's the fact that people won't listen to us and will make excuses as to why they can't listen to us. So that when they do start coming after us, it's too late. It already starts happening. Now, fortunately, like I've seen some other creators from other marginalized oppressed groups who have taken the steps to stand up and say, look, while you're opposing the oppression of what's going on to the Palestinian people, you cannot also be anti-Semitic and claim to be leftist. And I've noticed those people, and I've heard those people, and I've taken the time to say, I appreciate y'all because y'all are doing the good work. Y'all are stepping up and saying what needs to be said. And I appreciate the fact that they're doing that, because they don't have to, but they are doing what needs to be done to help us get our voices amplified. Because we're a very, very small percentage of the population of the planet. We don't have that voice, as much as people stereotypically want to say that we do. We don't. And people will just turn the other way. But yeah, again, for some reason, I understand why conservatives will pay us lip service. Conservatives will pretend to love us because they'll pretend to love Israel, because they'll cheer Israel on as they blow up Palestinians because they love to see dead Palestinians. And they only want us there in Israel because in order for the Christian prophecy to become true, we need to be all over there so we can die first. You know, again, with friends like that, who needs enemies? But, you know, some of the most vicious anti-Semitic comments that I've witnessed and have dealt with have come from conservative Christians. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, you know, conservative Christians, you know, Republican MAGA folks are my friends by any stretch of the imagination. When you have Donald Trump saying the people marching alongside the Nazis in Charlottesville are good people. They're not. But the leftists, I expect more from. The leftists who will tell you to listen to marginalized and oppressed people will ignore us. And again, maybe it's just because of the fact that, you know, especially with Ashkenazi Jews, I look like a white guy. You look at me, not many people look at me and say, oh, he's Jewish. You can look at other people and say, oh, they're Jewish, but not a lot of people look at me and say, oh, that's a Jewish guy. But, so I get the benefit of white privilege until my Jewishness comes up, and then I don't. But when I start rounding up Jews and start sending us off to camps, they don't give a crap about my whiteness. The Nazis don't think I'm white. I had somebody on TikTok earlier today that was, or today or yesterday, that was like, Jews are not white. And I was like, explain yourself, because normally those types of comments come from white supremacist type folks. Because that's where it starts. We're others. To the Nazis, to the white supremacists, we're others. We are not really white folks. We're just convenient for their purposes until we're not. So, I would just implore everybody, especially those people on the left, while you're fighting the good fight for Palestinian folks who do deserve to have people fighting for them, fight for the Jewish people too. Listen to Jewish people when they're telling you that things hurt them. Listen to us when we tell you that slogans like from the river to the sea are things that call for our marginalization, that call for our oppression, that call for our genocide, that call for our deaths, because Hamas has embraced it and used it and has tainted. Even if that slogan started off as a perfectly fine slogan, Hamas tainted it so badly that it should not be used anymore, similar to a swastika. And if you can't understand that, then I don't know what else I can say to you. But if you're the type of person on the left who's going to tell everybody to listen to the live life experience of every other marginalized and oppressed person except for Jewish people, then you're going to be my next hypocrite of the week. And I'm not happy about it. Maybe that should have been a fat man rant. I don't know. Oh, I missed Benny Loco going by. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's crazy though. Like, you spent 36 days in jail. So you were in jail before this whole thing blew up. So did you Adam, did you actually hear about what was going on? Like, how much access to the outside world did you have when you were sitting in jail? Like, did you get the news about all the crap that was going on about this, or was it did you come out and be like, holy crap, what the hell happened while I was away? Thank you, Elizabeth, for your love and support. Honestly, like, a lot of the stuff that you say in chat, you know, I'm not saying this to say anything bad about everyone else of you, but a lot of your stuff that you put out there, I mean, it does mean a lot, Elizabeth. Like, you're very, very vocal about your agreement with what I say, and I do appreciate every one of you for being here, but sometimes Elizabeth adds that little extra that just gets me in the feels, and I appreciate it. Let's see. Watch an interview with a very old German who tries to make the case that very few Germans were responsible for World War II events. Hitler was Austrian and did what Trump was doing with Jeez. Like, yeah, they sat by and watched and did nothing. Like, to quote Tyrion Lannister, they did nothing as things went on. They were just happy to sit there and do nothing. Silence is violence. See, Adam, I have huge nightmare of PTSD from straighties calling me a fatty half because I'm stressed out 49 instead of a happy, idiotic 24-year-old. I may have told this, but I know a couple named Belle. They named their boy Taco and the girl Liberty. That should be child abuse. Oy. Good friend with last name Hall has 4 girls. He fought for the name Tagma. Wife won every time. Tagma Hall? I don't think I get that one. Let's see. We don't educate the masses on the truth of what different ethnicity and religions believe and practice. As a result, myths and slander perpetuate and no source of evidence of truth is found. Exactly. Tim, it's not okay to say anyone looks Jewish, right? I mean, like, looks-wise, like, to say, like, oh, your hair, your nose, your facial features, to say someone looks Jewish like that, not okay. Like, if you saw somebody, like, in a fully black outfit walking down the street on the Sabbath with, like, a talit on, with the payas, the curly sideburns and the hat, or a yarmulke on, you could probably make the assumption that that person looks Jewish, and not because of their physical attributes, but because of their clothes, and that would be a reasonable assumption to make. That would be a difference, I would say. Now, I mean, that being said, there are people who you would look at and be like, oi, where my, as a Jewish person, my Judar, like, pops up and be like, oi, you must be a fellow member of the tribe. And they're like, oi, yes I am. But, you know, it's still not cool when, it's one of those things where it's you know, us Jews could probably, like, be like, you know, nod and wink and understand that, yeah, we know. But it's still not cool for the Goyim to do it, so to speak. Musician named Taj Mahal. Nice. Let's see, what other thing I wanted to rant about before the show is over, because I probably was going to end the show. Well, for the Blog Talk Radio folks, I'm ending the show, like, an hour and 15 minutes into it, although for the YouTube folks it would be 2 hours into it. How can anyone say that I don't look Jewish? Oh, I think, okay, Tim, let me see how I can word this right. I don't think that anybody would, I don't think that's what I meant. I think what I meant to say is, I don't think it's that people would say that I don't look Jewish, but I don't think people would look at me and be like, oh, he is Jewish. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily, there's only one person who's ever said, oh, I thought you looked Jewish from the first time I saw you, but no one else has ever said that I don't necessarily have the nose, I don't have the other facial features that one might attribute to somebody who is of the Jewish persuasion, so to speak. So like I don't have the Jewfro. I don't know. Like, there are certain stereotypical things that Jewish people are supposedly stereotypically have that most people don't assume that I have. So most people don't see in me, and as such don't assume that I'm Jewish simply just by looking at me. I guess that's the way to put it. So I guess that's the way, so people wouldn't say you're not Jewish, but people wouldn't come up to me and be like, are you Jewish? Like, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. See, Adam West says Austrians accepted Hitler like MAGA, promised economic security we need, make Austria great again. My family is Polish. We knew exactly what happened. I have somebody who is a high school friend of mine who is from Poland as well, and she's very, 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 very insistent that she always is right about what goes on in what went on in World War II, and sometimes tries to tell me what went on, and it's just like, I don't think you're gonna win this argument here. So I don't know. Anyway, one of the last things I want to rant about, I've talked about this thing before, but like every time the media does it, it just makes me mad. Every time the media does this one thing, it just pisses me off. And they'll start talking about why these states are passing these abortion laws, because even though the people in their state, as a majority of their state, will say that they don't like the abortion laws, that they support abortion being legal at least at some point and not criminalizing it to the way that they do it. And I don't understand how these people make it so far in the media. How do they have national shows? How do they get so far up politically to be able to get to the point where they can make these statements to a national audience? It drives me nuts, because it's a stupid argument, because they don't understand that the polls are not asking the right questions. Yes, a majority of the state may very well not approve of the law, but that doesn't mean that they're going to vote against the person who's signing the bill into law, for example. So let's say you have a Republican in that state. They might believe that abortion should be legal up until the end of the first trimester, or up until a certain time and point. Or they might be completely pro-choice, but then conservative on everything else that most conservatives support. If you polled that person and you asked that person, do you agree with this bill? They might say no. Do you support abortion rights? They might say yes. But you're not asking them the right question, which is, would you vote against a Republican governor and vote for a Democratic governor instead if they passed this bill into law? That person would probably still say no. I would not vote against the Republican governor. I would not vote for the Democratic candidate, because despite the fact that I disagree with this abortion law, I agree with the person on most other issues, so therefore I'm not changing who I'm voting for. But these people are too stupid to ask these questions, or to get these poll questions asked. Like, I don't understand why they can't figure this out. If I can figure this out, they should be able to figure this out. And if they can't figure this out, and I can, then maybe I need to take their job. Right? Right. It's a big hook. Is there any unique genetics among the Jewish population? Is there like 23andMe that could identify you of Jewish roots? Yes. Yes. Let me pull that up. Let me pull up my I have my DNA test. I took a DNA test and found out I'm 0% that bitch. Let's I think I have it on my Twitter. I think that's easier for me to find is if I pull it up on Twitter. Or X, or whatever the hell stupid Elon wants to call it. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Go to my profile. Go to my media. And scroll. See, I tagged Lizzo in it because I wanted to I wanted her to retweet it or whatever because I thought it was funny that I took a DNA test, found out I'm 0% that bitch because like I am so white, I'm translucent. That's how white I am according to my DNA test. But scroll. I'm just passing all the times I made fun of Vivek Ramaswamy for doing a research paper on Man Bear Pig. Doop-a-doo. Let's see. This is much further down my page than I thought it was. Maybe it would have been faster to search my Facebook page for it, but it would have been faster to search my phone for it. But the phone makes it easier to search your own search someone's profile for a particular image, but I can't then show my phone on the screen, so I have to scroll this way and find it. We will get there eventually. Now I just have that song in my head. Took a DNA test, found out I'm 0% that bitch. And it actually like the first one that I got was like completely translucently white, and then the next one I got like 1% Sardinia. So I have a little bit of Mediterranean in me apparently. With being 1% sardine. I'm 1% fish, 99% whatevers. Man, I still haven't gotten past the mocking Vivek Ramaswamy on this one. Damn. And we're scrolling, and we're scrolling, and we're scrolling, and we're scrolling. And I know I've shared this a couple of times. Let's do this. This might be an easier way. Liberal Dan Radio and Lizzo. There we go. That was the easier way to do it. Alternate. So here we go. So according to Ancestry.com, here's my ethnicity estimate. And if you see this big giant green blob right here, this is European Jewish. And I'm 48% European Jewish. And that's this. That is probably all my dad's side. Because my mom was adopted. So this is probably all my dad's side. And this Eastern Europe and Russia part 2 is also probably my dad's side as well. Um, and then and this is actually the old one. This is not the one that has the Sardinia, where I'm part Sardine. But then the other half is England, Wales, and Northwestern Europe, and then 1% Ireland and Scotland. So let's see if I have another one that comes up. Media. Nope, just one? Really? Let's see. Liberal Dan Radio, DNA. This was revised, and it's still, but it doesn't give it. I didn't have the percentages, but yeah. Anyway, so that's me. 48%. So there are ethnicity things that can basically say yes, you are European Jewish. So there you go. That's what I be. That's what I do. So let's see what's coming up for me. So we're going to try and look into the information. Let's see. Anyway, responding to something on my Nerdy Dan thread. Yeah, it's terrible what Adam went through. If you need any help, I mean, we've helped P-dubs before. If you need any help with anything, just, let us know in the chat, and we can also always try and get things moving for you or what have you. What else? What else am I thinking of? What else was I going to add before I was going to end the show? I don't remember. I had a brain fart, and I don't remember what that brain fart was. Oh, what's going to happen in the upcoming week? So Wednesday, trying to find more information about the Speaker of the House and his son and how they look into each other's stuff and how they do that, and see if I can find more information about that. And if I can find more information about that, we'll talk about that a little bit. If not, well, then maybe that's a sign that maybe that's a good sign. Who knows? We'll talk about some other things as well. I'm trying to get Lindsay Cheek on the podcast. We'll see how Britt is doing getting Lindsay Cheek on the podcast, because the election soon. Early voting ends this week, and then the election is next Saturday. What other things coming up? I've been playing this game in person, in real life. It's a card game called Disney Lorcana. It's like a collectible card game, but it's based on Disney, so it takes nerdiness and Disneyness. It takes my gamer nerd stuff and my Disney nerd stuff, and it melds it together in one giant nerd thing. And these cards have been ridiculously hard to come up with. I've talked to Aaron about this before. These cards have been ridiculously hard to find, because scalpers just go in and bought them all up, and then are trying to sell like a booster box, which should cost like $150 have been going for like $350 or more on eBay. Like, people have been making a whole crap ton of money just scalping stuff. Individual cards are going for a whole bunch of money. Like the booster packs, which should be selling for like $5 or $6, are selling for like 10 or more some places. It's been crazy. So they're having a restock of what's going on, and this this story is like amazing. So my wife is at Walmart with both of my kids, looking at like Pokemon cards or something, and just happened to bump into the owner of a very small gaming shop that I've never heard of yet. But this person also is responsible for helping distributors restock big box stores. So she got the information, like the business card for the owner, and we talked a little bit on the phone. We emailed a little bit back and forth. I got his Discord information. Well, and they've been wanting to run a league at their store. So I was like, okay, well, I can help organize a little bit. I mean, I would want to play in the league. I don't necessarily want to run the league, but I can help with stuff. Like, I can help get the word out. I can help, gather interest and stuff like that. I'm more than happy to do all that and help get more people to your store to help get this done. So come to find out, he actually got like 6 of these booster boxes in this restock that's coming up this upcoming week. And he went ahead and put them up for sale for people to pre-order them, and he gave them to the people in his Discord first before putting them out to anybody. And when he announced this, me and my wife were out to dinner, and so I had to go drop my wife back off to go get her car because we had met up, and we drove to dinner, and then we went back. I dropped my wife back off at her car. She went home, and I went back to go to this gaming store, and I was the first one to buy this booster box, which again, these cards have been very hard to come by, and all of them have since sold out to the people in the Discord. So it's nerdy Dan is very happy this weekend. So one of the things that I should be doing on Thursday during my Twitch live stream is going to be something different, which is going to be opening all the packs and seeing all the good stuff that I get from those packs. So I'm very excited about that. And then the next week I should be getting more packs, more boxes from the new release that's coming out. So Nerdy Dan is a happy Dan. But I don't want to necessarily talk about other things that I have to talk about because I don't want other people to hear them, because certain things are surprises. We don't want to talk about surprises. So anywho. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week, the announcements that I have to make. Thanksgiving week, there's likely no shows, just put it that way. Anywho, so let me find this button, since we actually got to go on Blog Talk Radio. Almost forgot about that. That is the end of today's episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right. Again, we will be back Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel, to discuss everything. For some reason, it didn't seem like it was playing, but now it's playing again. Same bat time, same bat channel, talking about all of the good stuff. Maybe we'll get a Words of Redneck Wisdom coming up. Maybe we'll get some other bits. Hopefully we'll get another Just the Clip bit going on. Maybe something else will happen as well. Who knows? I do not know why the desktop audio is not playing, but I don't know. It's weird. It is not playing at all. We are not hearing what's going on. That is very weird. I don't understand why that's not playing at all. Blog Talk Radio is broken. Anyway, hopefully y'all will be able to hear the regular image. So I guess that's the end of today, and hopefully see y'all Wednesday. Have a good night. This week's Hypocrites of the Week are Texas. Wrong one. Wrong. That's the wrong audio because I played something else. That's funny. Oops. Liberal Dan Radio blooper reel coming up. There we go. Have a good one, y'all. That's loud.